Sophie's mom's voice carries a cautionary tone. If you ever meet another man who loves you enough to think about marriage, keep your thoughts on gender studies to yourself. Some things are better in theory than in practice. I notice Sophie subtly rolling her eyes as I reach for the restaurant check, a sign of my patriarchal instincts kicking in. She asks, her voice holding a touch of mockery beneath its lightness. I pause, unsure whether to pull back or continue. Each movement feels like a possible misstep in this delicate dance we've been engaged in recently, where every step seems to set off a hidden trap. I can split it with you, I offer, trying to navigate this social minefield. Her shoulders tense, clearly not the right response. So now you're trying to make a statement about gender equality? She retorts, her tone cutting through the restaurant noise. Real smooth, Matt. The waiter, hovering nearby, becomes a silent observer of our tension. I take the check, just to spare him the awkwardness. Sophie's disapproving glance is the perfect soundtrack to my sense of defeat. Just last week, she lectured me for an hour about outdated gender roles after I instinctively offered her my coat during an unexpected downpour. The week before, she had grown cold when I suggested she take charge of our weekend plans, rather than me making all the decisions, like some controlling patriarch. You're overthinking again, Sophie says, watching me sign the receipt. I can see the gears turning in her head. She's right. I'm analyzing every movement, every word and every gesture, trying to find the right combination to unlock this puzzle box our relationship has become. Remember last month's disaster? I ask. I had planned a surprise weekend getaway, something I'd done often during our first year together. She'd always loved my spontaneous romantic gestures. But this time, she snapped, accusing me of assuming I knew what was best for everyone. So the next weekend, I asked her to take the lead in making plans. Why can't you show some initiative? She had complained. I'm not your social secretary. The waiter returns with my card. I thank him and stand to help Sophie with her chair. But her glare freezes me mid-motion. A misstep. As we walk to the car, I maintain a careful distance, neither too close, as if possessive, nor too far, as if indifferent. She shivers slightly in the evening breeze. Yet I leave my jacket on my shoulders, a lesson learned from previous corrections. You used to be more natural, Sophie comments, breaking the silence. Less hesitant. A bitter laugh escapes before I can stop it. Natural. That got me labeled as toxic. There you go, getting defensive again, she says, crossing her arms. This is exactly what I mean about problematic masculine traits. The steering wheel absorbs my frustration as I grip it. Last month, she criticized me for mansplaining when I shared my excitement about a new work project. The next day, she accused me of emotional withholding when I kept my thoughts to myself during dinner. You're very quiet tonight, Sophie observes as we drive. Another trap. If I speak up, I'm dominating the conversation. If I stay silent, I'm being passive-aggressive. I think back to our early days, when everything seemed to flow naturally. I could be myself, opening doors, sharing opinions, making plans, showing concern. Now, every action feels loaded with potential criticism. Every word risks triggering a lecture on ingrained patriarchal behaviors. The engagement ring in my dresser drawer mocks me nightly. I bought it 3 months ago, before this pattern emerged, before every masculine trait she once admired became problematic, before she began trying to fix me while expecting the same behavior she now criticized. You're different, she says, as we reach her apartment. Something's changed. She's right. Something has changed. I've become a man afraid of his own shadow, second-guessing every natural impulse, paralyzed by contradictory expectations. I'll text it you tomorrow, I say, navigating another minefield. Too eager to communicate, possessive, too distant, emotionally unavailable. Sophie lingers by the car door. You used to walk me to my door, she says. You said that was overprotective, so now you're throwing my words back at me. I close my eyes and count to calm myself. There are no right moves in this game. Every path leads to criticism. Every choice proves some point about toxic masculinity. The ring in my drawer will stay there. I'm exhausted from trying to be the man she wants while she simultaneously criticizes his existence. Good night, Sophie, I say, as she stands on the curb, watching me drive away. Likely adding this moment to her mental list of my masculine failures. The problem is, staying would have been on that list too. Hey, it's Sophie here. My women's studies professor would be proud. I can spot the microaggressions now, cataloging the subtle ways internalized patriarchy manifests in relationships. Matt's changing, becoming distant, and he refuses to understand. I'm trying to help him grow. I recount the restaurant incident tonight. Feeling it perfectly illustrates his resistance. 1 minute, he's automatically reaching for the check. Classic patriarchal move. Then, when I call him out on it, he swings to the other extreme, suggesting we split it like he's mocking my feminist principles. He's pulling away. I complain to my roommate Lisa, sprawled across the couch after returning home. Ever since I started pointing out problematic behaviors, Lisa raises an eyebrow. Remember last week when you criticized him for offering his jacket and then got upset when he didn't walk you to your door? Those are completely different situations. My voice rises defensively. One's about assumed feminine weakness, the other's basic courtesy. My mind drifts to Professor Martinez's lectures on deconstructing toxic masculinity. Everything clicked in her class. How men's supposed protectiveness masks control, how their decisions perpetuate power dynamics. I'm helping Matt recognize these patterns. He should appreciate my efforts. He planned the surprise trip last month. I continue, not even consulting me. Pure masculine presumption. Didn't you post about how romantic his surprises were last Valentine's Day? Lisa interrupts. I wasn't awakened then, I say, the words sounding hollow. Even to me. Besides, when I asked him to plan something recently, he pushed it back on me. Classic avoidance of emotional labor. The memory of our early days floods me uninvited. Matt's confident smile as he held doors open, his protective arm around my waist at crowded concerts, his decisive restaurant choices on date nights. His masculinity attracted me then, before I understood its problematic nature. My phone remained silent. He always texted immediately after our dates. He's becoming passive-aggressive, I mutter, checking the screen again. Another toxic trait, Lisa snorts. Or maybe he's just tired of walking on eggshells. I'm helping him examine his ingrained behaviors, I say, the defensive tone growing stronger. He's resistant to growth. Last week's dinner replays in my mind. He remained silent throughout the meal, withholding emotionally after I pointed out how his workplace story veered into mansplaining territory. Remember when you called him controlling for making decisions? Lisa interjects. Then complained he wasn't taking charge enough. You're oversimplifying, I say, my cheeks burning. There's nuance between being controlling and being passive. Professor Martinez's words echo in my mind. Modern masculinity requires reconstruction. I'm just guiding Matt through this process. Why can't he see this as an opportunity for evolution? The mattress absorbs my frustration as I flop onto my bed. 3 months ago, I caught him looking at engagement rings online. My heart soared. Now, he barely initiates conversations. He used to be more present. More masculine whispers. I whisper to the ceiling. My gaze falls on our frame photo from last summer. Matt's arms are around me, protectively, possessively, as we laugh at something forgotten. We look happy, but we were ignorant. I hadn't seen the power dynamics at play. The subtle something about his masculinity reinforced patriarchal standards. Yet, when I think about his spontaneous gestures, his confident decisions, and his strong presence, a pang of longing hits me. He's still physically here, but now he's unsure, second-guessing every move. I'm losing him, I confess to Lisa through my bedroom door. You're criticizing him into oblivion, she responds bluntly. I'm enlightening him, I counter. But doubt creeps in. Why does his growth feel like a loss? My phone finally buzzes with a brief text. Home safe. Before my wakening, he had sent sweet messages about missing me already. Now his texts feel distant and impersonal. Another masculine flaw added to my mental list. Good night, I reply, battling my disappointment when he doesn't respond right away. He'll understand eventually, I remind myself. Professor Martinez says that men initially resist reflecting on their privileged behaviors. But this resistance phase will pass. Matt will come out stronger, better, more evolved. My dinner goes cold as Sophie starts another lecture, her fork gesturing like a conductor's baton as she orchestrates tonight's session on masculine toxicity. The background noise of the restaurant fades against her growing voice as Dr. Martinez explains how masculine protection instincts are rooted in patriarchal notions of ownership. She critiques my simple act of pulling out her chair, claiming it's fascinating how these behaviors stop. Then the word slips out before I can stop it. Her eyes widen as I break our usual pattern. She starts lecturing. I'm absorbing her words, but something inside me snaps, releasing months of pent-up frustration. Tell me about Dr. Martinez again, I say, pushing my plate aside. And her groundbreaking ideas. Sophie cuts in. Doctor. Martinez is a woman, of course. I let out a harsh laugh. Heaven forbid a male professor critique masculine behavior. It might be labeled mansplaining. Sophie's cheeks flush. You're being defensive again. Dr. Martinez says, Doctor? Martinez says, Doctor? Martinez explains, I mock, feeling the weight of months of bottled bitterness. Does Dr. Martinez give dating advice too? Marriage counseling, perhaps? Is she helping me understand relationship dynamics? I ask. No, she's destroying ours, I say, keeping my voice steady, though my hands shake beneath the table. Every gesture becomes a topic of her lectures. Every action requires analysis. Every masculine trait needs fixing. I'm trying to help you grow into what? The question bursts out between us. A passive observer? A neutered yes man? Someone too afraid to express any masculine trait for fear of triggering another lecture. Sophie's mouth opens and closes. For once, Dr. Martinez offers no ready response. Remember our third date? I continue. That drunk guy wouldn't leave you alone. I stepped in, walked you home, made sure you were safe, protecting you. Was that toxic masculinity? That's different, she replies. How is it different? Same behavior, different context. Back then, my masculinity attracted you. Now it needs fixing. The waiter approaches, then quickly retreats, wisely sensing the tension. Dr. Martinez emphasizes how masculine protective instincts are connected to patriarchal views, and Sophie recoils as though slapped. What? Marry Dr. Martinez? She's clearly your ideal partner. No toxic masculinity there, I snap. You're being ridiculous. Am I? I ask. She dictates how I should act, how I should think, how I should express myself. She's more present in our relationship than I am. She's helping me recognize problematic patterns. She's helping you destroy everything real between us. My voice cracks. Every natural impulse feels like a classroom topic now. Every masculine trait requires examination. I'm suffocating under her theories. Sophie, if you'd read her papers, I don't need her papers. The engagement ring in my pocket burns like fire. My last attempt to salvage what we had. I need my girlfriend back. The one who appreciated me before Dr. Martinez declared masculinity a disease needing treatment. Sophie straightens, preparing her fresh academic arsenal. Doctor! Martinez explains how male resistance to examining privilege. Stop! I interrupt, placing the ring box on the table. Just stop. Her eyes lock onto the small velvet cube. I bought this 3 months ago, before Dr. Martinez became the third person in our relationship, before every action of mine required her approval. You're overreacting, she says. No, I'm done, I retort. Done being your sociology experiment. Done having every gesture analyzed. Done competing with academic theories for your approval. I don't care what Dr. Martinez says. I can feel the eyes of nearby diners on us. Go share her theories with someone else. Go find someone whose masculinity doesn't offend your professor's sensibilities. Sophie reaches for the ring box, but I quickly slide it back into my pocket. This isn't you, she whispers. No, I reply. This is exactly me. The masculine man you were attracted to before Dr. Martinez rewrote your programming. The man you now want to fix. Standing, I leave enough cash to cover dinner. Sophie's mouth opens. Likely to critique this final patriarchal gesture. I hope you and Dr. Martinez have a wonderful life together, I say softly. Analyzing other men's toxic behaviors, discovering new problematic patterns, deconstructing masculinity until nothing remains. My mascara runs in black rivers as I burst into my parents' kitchen. Mum drops her dish towel, and Dad looks up from his crossword puzzle. The peaceful Sunday morning is shattered by my dramatic entrance. He's gone, I sob, collapsing into a chair. Matt broke up with me. He says I'm trying to fix him, but I'm only sharing important insights about toxic masculinity. Sophie, Joe, and Parker's voices cut through my explanation. What did you do? Mum's sharp tone slices through my words. I was helping him understand problematic masculine behaviors. I blink through my tears. Dad's puzzle hits the table with unexpected force. Who? My women's studies professor. She explains how traditional masculinity. Stop right there. Mum pulls out a chair, her expression serious. Tell me you didn't ruin your relationship with that wonderful man over some professor's theories. I didn't ruin anything. I was trying to make him better. Better? Dad's voice carries an edge I rarely hear. Better than what? Better than who? My mouth opens and closes, but I have no answer. That's not it, Dad continues, standing to pace the kitchen. I open doors for your mother. I protect her. I make decisions when needed and step back when appropriate. Should she have fixed me too? It's different, I exclaim. His question cuts through my defenses. How exactly? Because some professor with a theory told you so. Fresh tears spill. You don't understand. No, Dad says, his voice steady. You don't understand. Dad stops pacing and glares at me with a serious expression. You had a man who valued you, cared for you, and loved you enough to think about marriage. How could you let that slip away? He asks. He asked for my blessing 3 months ago, I reply. The sting in his voice hurting more than Matt's anger ever did. He called me sir, looked me in the eye, and spoke with conviction. Traditional masculine behavior, your professor would probably break down in class. Mom reaches for my hand. Remember last Christmas? When your car broke down on the highway, Matt left his family dinner to come rescue you. She pauses, correcting herself. To protect you. That's a masculine trait you're so quick to criticize. I laugh, but it's choked and bitter. Would you have preferred he told you to examine your reliance on patriarchal assistance? Your father carried my groceries yesterday, Mom says. Should I lecture him about implied feminine weakness? She pauses before continuing. But Dr. Martinez can keep her theories in her classroom. Dad interrupts. Real relationships need real people, not case studies and gender theories. The kitchen goes still except for my sniffles. Mum pushes a box of tissues toward me. You know what's truly toxic? She asks quietly. It's destroying someone's natural way of showing love because it doesn't fit your professor's worldview. I was trying to help him grow, I say weakly. Dad's voice softens. No, you were trying to shrink him into a theory. Men aren't sociology papers, Princess. We're not specimens for academic analysis. But masculine behaviors can be problematic, I argue. So can feminine ones. So can human ones, he replies. But you don't fix problems in a relationship by turning your partner into a research project. The tissue disintegrates in my clenched hands. I really messed this up, didn't I? Dad nods, monumentally. But, he adds, squeezing my shoulder, you took a good man's natural instincts, protecting you, providing for you, loving you, and turned them into weapons against him. How do I fix this? I ask desperately. Mom lets out a small laugh. Honestly, you probably can't. Some things break too badly to be repaired. But you criticized his masculinity while depending on it. She cuts in. You demanded he change while expecting him to stay the same. No relationship survives that kind of contradiction. Dad goes back to his crossword puzzle, clearly dismissing me. Next time, he says without looking up, try appreciating a man's strength instead of analyzing it to death. And leave your professor's opinions in the classroom where they belong. Mom's voice carries a warning. If you ever find another man willing to love you enough to consider marriage, keep the gender studies analysis to yourself. Some things work better in theory than in practice.